Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so honored to have with us today Kyle Wiens. He's the co-founder and CEO of iFixit, iFixit.com. Welcome to Green is Good, Kyle.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, Kyle, first time on this show. We're so excited to have you on because you really are changing the world for the better. But before we get into your great website, iFixit.com, and what it does, talk a little bit about the Kyle Wiens story, the biography. What your history. You're still a very young man. What got you to this point of co-founding this great website, and what did you do before?
Sure. So I grew up in Oregon and moved down to California to go to engineering school. And I was a couple months into engineering school when I dropped my laptop off the bed in my dorm room onto the power plug. And it was one of those things where if I held it just right, I could get it to work. And I thought, there's got to be a way. I mean, inside it's just a loose connection. It's working sometimes if I wiggle it just right. So I started to try to take the computer apart to see if I could get in to put a little bit of solder on that connection that was broken. And I got stuck. I couldn't figure out how to take it apart. So folks my age tend to assume that if information exists, it's on the internet. And so I started Googling for, disassembly instructions. I wanted a service manual for the computer so I could get inside it.
Right.
And I couldn't find that information anywhere.
Wow.
So I ended up getting the computer apart, but I broke some stuff along the way. I got it back together. I got the computer working, but it wasn't as good as it would have been if I'd had a manual. And so I started doing a little bit of digging to say, why isn't there a service manual available for this computer? And I learned that Apple has been specifically using legal threats to keep their service manuals off the internet.
Oh, boy.
They don't want anyone but their technicians to know how to fix their computers. There's a lot of reasons for it, but one reason is planned obsolescence. They just want you to move on to the next product soon.
Sure.
And so I said, that's not really okay. And in a fit of pique, I said, well, I figured out how to take the computer apart. I know how to do it now. I didn't know it before, but I know it now. So why don't I take some pictures, put them online, and we'll see what happens. So we did that. And that's kind of the nice thing about being young and stupid is you don't really know what's not possible.
Right.
Nobody told me I couldn't write a repair manual for Apple's laptop, so I just did it.
Right. And therefore, that was the beginning, that was the epiphany and the aha moment of starting to think there's probably a lot of other OEMs that need this to be done, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think there was going to be a whole lot of demand. I just figured I did it for my own gratification to put it online, and we had 10,000 hits the first weekend we put this repair guide online. Oh, gee, clearly there's a lot of pent-up demand for this. People want to know how to get in and fix these things.
Wow.
So, we started writing manuals for more things and covering more OEMs, and iFixit has kind of snowballed from there.
And what year did you launch iFixit.com? And for our listeners out there, it's www.ifixit.com. Simple, and it says exactly what it is. What year did you launch that site?
Yeah, we started back in 2003. So we've been at it almost 10 years, I guess a little more than 10 years.
Wow.
And, we've just been systematically adding more repair guides. And it's a community site, so anybody can share manuals. So if you know how to fix a blender or a toaster or a digital camera, you can take some photos of the process and share it on the site. And over the course of the last decade, collaborating with repair technicians and interested people around the world, we've managed to build the largest online repair manual.
Unbelievable. And I know you're a humble guy, but I'm on your website now. First of all, it's visually beautiful and it's easy to operate and easy to work with. But how many, let's talk about these 11 fascinating years. How big is the site now in terms of traffic, and how big is it in terms of compendium of information of how many items you could find manuals for to fix?
Yeah, so we help over 3 million people a month all around the world learn how to fix things.
Wow.
I got an email from someone last week that said, hey, thanks, I fixed my toaster using a guide on the site.
Wow.
I saw somebody post a photo on Twitter this morning of them fixing their iPhone. It was probably a dead battery. The batteries in these phones go out after a year or so, and it's pretty easy to put a new battery in an iPhone.
Wow.
So people all around the world, in every country on Earth, are able to get online, get access to the free information, and learn how to do the repairs.
And now there's hundreds or thousands of repair manuals on your great website?
Yeah, so we have right now about 10,000 repair guides, but more are being added every single day.
Wow, that is just and do you still get the same satisfaction now that it's 2014? Kyle, do you still get that same satisfaction that when you get these photos or these thank you emails? I mean, and 3 million people. I mean, talk about a person and talk about a company that's making the world a better place. I mean, are you still as jazzed as ever before when you even started the company?
Yeah, I feel like we're still just getting started. There are so many things out there that people just don't know how they work anymore. We've kind of forgotten how physical things work. And the moment that you open any kind of electronics it's challenging. It takes you out of your comfort zone. Most of us are not electrical engineers. We're not really accustomed to what's inside these products.
Sure.
But if you have a repair guide to walk you through the process, I think it's really impressive what people can do.
Yeah, that is so great. And e-waste, I know that's a growing problem. It's probably the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world. What got you specifically interested in e-waste, in that you're bombarded with so much information every day and have so many things pulling at you? Why e-waste being an interesting topic that you've taken a larger interest in?
Yeah, I've been really interested in the problem for a while, and I had heard a lot of environmental groups and Greenpeace talking about the problem, and I wasn't really sure whether to believe them or not. And I had heard reports of some of the electronics burnings that happen around the world where people are mining electronics for raw materials, and I decided to go and find out for myself. So I went to Ghana. I've been to Egbogboshi, which is the kind of famous scrapyard in Ghana, just to visit and talk to these guys and learn what they're doing. And it turns out a lot of the folks that are mining these things for raw materials would much rather be repairing them than burning them and getting a small amount of copper out of these old computers. They just don't know how. They don't have the knowledge and the training.
Wow.
And one side effect, the manufacturers will say, well, we only make service documentation available to our authorized service centers.
Right.
Well, Apple and HP and Dell don't have authorized service centers in Accra, Ghana. They're not over there training anybody. And so what ends up happening is you have all this very complex, toxic electronics that end up in Africa because people need to use electronics in Africa. They don't have a formal recycling channel there, and they don't have the information they need on how to repair and maintain and keep these things lasting.
Wow, so you went there firsthand and met the people there. Wow.
Yeah, I tend to not trust other folks. I want to see with my own eyes and talk to people and really understand the problem from beginning to end. And it starts with when you're digging raw materials out of the ground to make a product, and goes through however long people were using things, and then where do these things end up at end of life? I really wanted to know. And there's a global travel of these electronics that is completely unintuitive. You might use a phone for a while and then sell it, and then where does it end up afterwards? Right.
And let's go back to a couple of words that you used at the top of the show. Is planned obsolescence, with the words you used, still a problem? The issue that's underlying e-waste and other items right now?
Yeah, well, you could ask yourself, why can't you put additional storage in an iPad?
Right.
iPads come with 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes. It would be super easy, and there's absolutely space inside for there to be a micro SD slot so you could throw in more storage in your iPad.
Right.
But they make so much money selling those upgraded models, they want to push you on to the next one. There's no way they're going to make it upgradable.
So planned obsolescence is still really part of our society in so many ways with products.
And I think there's an opportunity for consumers to push back, but the manufacturers that have been making upgradable, repairable products haven't been rewarded in the marketplace, and so we're seeing products like, people might not realize the iPad is glued together. It's not upgradable. It's got a battery that's designed to last a couple of years, and then it's designed to go in the trash.
Gotcha. For our listeners who just joined us, we're so excited to have Kyle Wiens with us. He's the co-founder and CEO of iFixit, ifixit.com, www.ifixit.com. Very simple and intuitive, and just an amazing website. 3 million people a month, over 10,000 manuals on how to fix your own materials. Kyle, what are the most common breakdowns now with regards to PCs, smartphones, other electronics? What are the most common that you get emails or you get queries on?
The most common thing is batteries in phones, particularly phones that have batteries where you can't just pop the back panel off and throw a new battery in.
Right.
So that's phones like the iPhone and a bunch of others where you have to have special screwdrivers to get in. It's usually pretty easy to get in and swap the batteries on those things. You just have to have the right tools.
Right.
So I'd say that's number one. Broken glass on tablets and smartphones is number two.
Okay.
So whether that's a Galaxy Tab or an iPad or a Dell tablet, all the way over to on the phones, the Samsung Galaxy S3 and 4 and iPhones and the HTCs, it's pretty straightforward to get replacement glass for those devices. We sell replacement screens and tools, but you can get them from a variety of places. And that's why you're seeing all these small local repair shops popping up all over the place. They're just using the online manuals and parts they can get online to do repairs.
Right, right. Are when we talk about planned obsolescence, have the lives, I mean, since you've been at this specifically for 11 years, which with regards to the technological revolution, 11 years makes you really like one of the godfathers of the industry then. Are the lives getting shorter or standing still or getting longer? If you were to choose among all three of those, when you see the biggest OEMs, are they creating new electronics with shorter lives?
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends. I think the trend that we're seeing recently is laptops in general have been lasting longer.
Okay.
The upgrade cycles on laptops, I don't think people have much of a problem hanging on to a laptop for 5 years now.
Right.
Where we're seeing accelerated lifespans is on the cell phones and tablets. The average American hangs onto a cell phone for 18 months now.
Right.
Even though the contract is 2 years, we're only using phones for 18 months.
Unbelievable.
And there's a couple of reasons for that, but I think the biggest driver is that the batteries in phones only last for about 400 charges. So at the end of 400 charges, the battery is pretty weak. It's not intuitive how easy it is to replace batteries in these things, and so a lot of people say, oh, the battery isn't lasting that long, let me just go and get a new one.
Right, right.
So that's a result of the manufacturers building a consumable into the device that's not replaceable. Battery is just like the tires in your car. It's something that needs to be replaced every once in a while.
Besides, a brilliant entrepreneur like you who has now evolved to become really in many ways a social entrepreneur or a conscious capitalist, given that what you're really doing and the problems that you're solving, that you've changed the world on a micro basis with your amazing website. You've created basically you've democratized the process. What on a bigger scale, on a macro scale, what policy changes are needed to encourage more repairs to happen?
Right. So our goal is to shift people's behavior and our culture around our things away from a culture where we're just consuming thing after thing to something where we're more a part of the process. And that involves getting information in the hands of more people. We've been writing repair manuals as fast as we can for 10 years. We've got 10,000 repair guides online. The problem is that at CES, the big consumer electronics show every year, every January, they introduce about 20,000 new electronic gizmos.
Wow.
So as fast as we can write manuals and get them online, we're not able to keep up.
Wow, that's interesting. Wow, gotcha.
And the great irony of what we do at iFixit, creating repair information, putting it online, is that the manufacturers already have repair manuals for everything that we're disassembling and figuring out how to fix. They're just not sharing it with the rest of us.
No kidding. No, I'm sure you've gotten their attention by now. Even at this point, they haven't, tried to broker a truce with you and just hand them over?
I don't know. We'd be surprised. Well, you tell me on the electronics recycling side, I mean, do you get information from manufacturers on how to recycle electronics?
No, they're asking us typically. They're asking us. They want to come and watch us recycle it so they could maybe make it better. Actually, in the last years, they're coming and watching us recycle. So in theory, they can make their products greener with less disposable materials, more recyclable materials, or make the products more recyclable. That goes for some of the OEMs. Obviously, as you know and I know, some of the OEMs never come to our facilities and watch us recycle because that's, again, not their goal. not their goal. So
well,
you're
I would say
absolutely
overall,
right.
it's a good thing that they're watching.
Yeah.
But it seems crazy to me that you're the one doing the R&D on their behalf to figure out how to recycle their product.
You're right. You're 100% right. It's a great point, and that's a fascinating data point. CES puts out highlights or platforms 20,000 new products, and to me 10,000 manuals sounds like amazing. I mean, that's what you've accomplished in 11 years with 3 million people a month. That's amazing. But I guess, like you say, we have a long way to go yet. And speaking of that, when I asked you about how do you feel after 11 years, and you still feel like it's the top of the first or second inning, which is such a great way of putting it. Where's this going to go? Where is iFixit going to go, and where do you want it to go in the next 3 to 5 years? As an entrepreneur, what's your vision, Kyle?
Sure. Our mission is to teach everyone how to fix everything. That's where we're going.
I love it.
iFixit is like Wikipedia. We are the comprehensive place where you go to learn how to fix anything.
Right.
And if we don't have the repair information yet for how to fix the thing you've got that's broken, then that's something we need to work on.
Right.
And we're adding more manuals all the time for things like appliances, and we even have how to change the oil in a John Deere tractor.
That's awesome.
So our goal is to get the information in the hands of the people that need it. And we're gonna keep plugging away, whether that's us creating manuals or partnering with manufacturers, or even there's been some work to pass some right to repair laws recently. In Massachusetts last year, they passed a right to repair law that requires manufacturers to share service information about cars. And that's fantastic. That's what the local repair shops need. And that's our goal, is to get that kind of information out there. So when people have stuff that's broken, they can actually effect a repair.
And now that your company has become, very successful, Kyle, and quite large in terms of its touch and its relevance and value, who do you look up to as an entrepreneur? Who is your CEO role model that's out there and doing it right, and someone that you can help, guide your company in terms of evolution and things of that such? Do you have one or two role models that you could share with our audience that you look up to currently?
Sure, that's a great question. Probably the company and the CEO that I look up to the most in the world right now is Patagonia.
Oh. Okay.
Patagonia has a company ethos that carries through everything that they do. Yvon Chouinard, the co-founder and CEO, I mean, they started out making climbing gear, and then they got into clothing. And they have really gone all the way to the roots. They'll go to the farms, they're growing the cotton, they go into their gear, and then they share and they show photos, and they tell people, like, hey, here's the farms, this is where it goes all the way through. Here's the geese that we're plucking the down from to make the down jackets. So I think there's an honesty in what they do and an authenticity that has been very impressive.
That is so interesting. And with that, we're down to the last 2 minutes or so. There's a lot of young people that listen to the show, not only in the United States, Kyle, on Clear Channel's iHeart network, but also after it uploads on iTunes. We get thousands of iTunes downloads every week around the world. And there's a lot of people that will look at you. And by the way, I shared this with you off the air, but I love the photo of you. It is like the great all-American entrepreneur photo of all time, and it's going to be on our website for our listeners who want to go to see it on GreenIsGoodRadio.com. But what can you share backwards with the youth around the world that want to be an entrepreneur like you that makes the world a better place?
There's something nice about being young and not knowing what's not possible.
Yeah.
I would say don't take no for an answer, and don't be afraid to fail, because sometimes if you set your expectations a little lower and it's like, hey, I have no idea if this is going to work or not, let's just try it. And that's something, as we get older, we're more afraid of failing, and so we tend to take fewer chances, and we tend to do less interesting things. So I would chase any opportunity, no matter how crazy it seems.
That is great. And Kyle, I just want to say this. I think what you're doing is so important. Being in the e-waste industry myself and having just a snippet of knowledge of what's going on, what iFixit is doing is truly revolutionary in so many ways, and is really making the world a better place. And for our listeners out there that want to share either their version of a manual back with Kyle, or go and learn how to fix something, please go to Kyle's great website. It's www.ifixit.com. Again, www.ifixit.com. It's a great website. It's easy to access and easy to use, and I encourage everybody to be part of the process and part of the solution. Again, Kyle, this was great today. Thank you so much for coming on Green is Good, and we're going to have you back on so you can continue to tell your story as things evolve. And thank you again for creating a great website that democratizes our ability to fix electronics. You're a sustainability superstar and truly living proof that green is good.